Hey guys, it's Canadian Kyle here, and welcome to the Wealth Owners Podcast. Now, this is not the full interview. For the full interview, link below, thewealthownerspodcast.ca, where it includes the full interview, including the Vault segment, which is my favorite segment. It's mentorship-like questions, and I gain a ton of value from them. So go to the link. If you want to stick around YouTube, that's fine. Just make sure to like, subscribe, and share to get it out into the YouTube universe. Thanks. Enjoy. Two. Hey guys, it's Canadian Kyle here at the Wealth Owners Podcast, and today I'm joined with Rauno Perttu. He's the CEO of Provenance Gold, ticker symbol PAU on the CSE, and they're a gold exploration company with projects in Nevada. Rauno, sorry. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I am doing very well, and I'm excited about what we're finding right now in our White Rock drilling program.
Well, hopefully you can talk about that shortly, but I always like starting off the podcast by asking my guests the same question. What were you doing when you were my age? I'm 25 years old, so what were you doing from 20 to 25?
Good question. At 20, I was in the University of Oregon Honors College program, and I had not even known about geology, but the last segment of the year before, I had a section on geology that was a requirement. I fell in love with it. I came back my sophomore year at 20 and switched majors to geology. Never looked back. Had a great time with it. And when I graduated, I had some time before graduate school. I actually got two temporary jobs that taught me a lot about what I was going to like in the future. I was being pushed to become a prof, go out and go into the education system. But the first project I had, I was hired as a geologist for a project in Southeast Alaska. It was the development of a pulp and paper complex with a dam for power that was going to be built north of Juneau, about 100 miles. When I went out there, I looked around, and my first obvious question was, yep, it's a great project, but what are you guys going to do about the fault that's going through the dam site? And they said, what fault? and I said, well, from what I've seen, there has to be a strike slip fault similar to the San Andreas, a strand of it going through the dam site. And they said, we've drilled it. And I asked, well, did you angle drill it? And the reason for the question was those kinds of faults are vertical. The drill holes had been vertical. They drilled their first angle hole, went through 4 fault strands, and it killed the project. So geology can be important on that. Then I went to Pacific Power and Light, where I was hired to go out and do geology of a coal field for a power plant near Rock Springs, Wyoming. The interesting thing about this was I thought it was going to be dull. Who wants to drill coal? You know, all the blah, blah, blah. It turned out to be a lot of fun. And I came back innocently to the office on the first visit. And I said, well, guys, I've mapped this in detail, but we have these areas, and I had scallops of areas on their map. And I said, the coal is gone in those areas. And they said, what? And I said, it's burned out. And they couldn't accept that. And they said, how can it be burned out? And coal can ignite spontaneously through, in this case, fluctuation of groundwater, and ignite underground and burn slowly. So they came out. I drilled a hole, and we had smoke come out and heat roar out, and they had to change the mine plans completely ahead of the power plant and ahead of the mining operation. So in both cases, what I learned was good geology can be very important to companies. The guy who taught me at that at Pacific Power and Light was a brilliant mining engineer. And he actually had me lay out mine plans, do all that. And he said, you're in this company to make money, not to be a geologist. And I carried that all through.
Yeah, I think some geologists might miss that fact, that it's all about the money.
Very much, yeah. So in fact, if I can add one more thing, then what I did then was I went to Rice University on a National Science Foundation fellowship to get my doctorate. And before I finished my doctorate, Pacific Power called me back and said, we want to hire you, and the job is good until June. It was twice the salary anybody who was going out there with their fresh PhDs were getting. So I made the obvious choice, and I have never regretted it.
Hmm. So twice the salary, and geologists get paid well. I'm sure you could retire any day now if you wanted to. What motivates you to keep on going and working today?
I actually did retire for a short time, and I had Rob Clark and a couple of people call me up because I had been recommended to them by somebody else. And they asked me if I knew any good gold projects because they wanted to start a new gold company. They thought gold was going to come back. This was during all that terrible time for gold. I agreed with them. I thought about it and I accepted. And I've been happy I did. It's worked out very well. And I found out one other thing. You don't want to retire if you don't have to, because it's a lot of fun working, especially on something that you truly enjoy.
That's great. So I think in these early stage exploration companies, the human capital is one of, if not the most important asset.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, have you made any significant gold or silver discoveries in Nevada specifically?
Not in Nevada. I found a major gold system in Montana that I was actually partners with a funder who started Magma Power Company, which became the geothermal, basically started the geothermal industry in the United States. And we had a deal with Kinross at the time. We flew to Toronto. He wouldn't sign because he wanted more money, even though I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I'd be very happy somewhere else. And in the meantime, the law passed in Montana that no cyanide heap leach gold mining would be allowed. The project went away, gold collapsed, and that was a major discovery. I found some other deposits elsewhere, but probably I think my best strength is in looking at the economics of projects. And one that is not in Nevada, I started a project to acquire and develop a major high fluidity coking coal project in the Bowen Basin in Australia for Kennecott RTZ. And that turned out spectacularly. So you have to pick the economics over the commodity. And I've been in a lot of commodities. And the first question is this going to become economic and is it justifiable? Yes.
And you never been to Nevada though, but you know it's economical in Nevada?
Oh, I spent a lot of time on Nevada geology. Sorry, but the guy who's really the Nevada expert is Steve Craig. He was Kennecott's manager there for 25 years. Then after that, he was with small companies. He made several discoveries in Nevada. He knows probably every dirt road in Nevada and has drilled 150 projects, something like that, in Nevada. And he was the one that I'm relying on his expertise. Then I come in and I look at it for the practicality of, is this going to be a real developable project?
Right. Can I get your thoughts on the Nevada taxes and do you think that would deter investments in that state or?
No, I don't. And I'm not that familiar with production taxes right now in Nevada, but I know that they're very reasonable from talking to people that are producing there. So okay. No, it's not bad.
And there's no exploration taxes increases or increase on taxes?
No.
Okay, just wondering. I thought I would ask. One thing when I was doing my research on Provenance Gold is I looked at your news releases and I saw back in January press releases about a joint venture with Palayan Resources. What happened there? Because it got terminated within a couple months, and then did that negatively affect Provenance in any way?
It annoyed me. Let's put it that way. Rob had a call from this company Palayan. I'd never heard of them. I did research. I couldn't find out anything about them, but they truly wanted to fund a joint venture on Silver Bowl. And Silver Bowl is a project that I was happy to joint venture. I would not do the other two, but Silver Bowl I was. because it was a higher risk project. They were supposed to bring in money on a joint venture agreement that we struck, and they never brought in any significant funding. We gave them lots of leeway, and we finally just said it's terminated because why are we carrying you if you're not going to perform?
Right. And you did end up drilling at Silver Bow too, right? You drilled 23 holes. Were you happy with the results?
Modestly. And what happened was the only place we could drill in Silver Bow, I'll back up. The main target that we like at Silver Bow is a rhyolite dome pair on the west end of the property.
Right.
That had to be permitted over a period of time. We had a patented claim that we had acquired that had great surface shows, and it had a high-grade shallow gold mine that stopped at the water table. So we decided we would drill that first and basically get our feet wet on the project and learn a lot more. We learned a lot more. We found out that, yes, there are bulk tonnage, open pit grade mineralized areas on that property. There's a high grade target on the rhyolite domes I talked about. But overall, I didn't get the pizzazzy in that first group of holes. And so it was this question of, do you want to continue pursuing that or fix your attention on White Rock, which we knew from 65 holes drilled there in the past has excellent gold. Steve was telling me that he truly loved it. I went out and saw it. I truly loved it. So I switched gears and said, we're not spending any more right now on Silver Bow. We're going to spend it on White Rock instead.
Okay. Because Blue Horse is the only permitted spot on Silver Bow, right? So how long does it take to do get a drilling permit in Nevada if you wanted to get to the one?
It depends. Okay. White Rock, there. I mean, on the Blue Horse claim, there was no permitting involved. It was a patented private ground, so we could drill right away, and that was the reason we did it. Normally in Nevada, if you do a limited program that involves only a certain amount of surface disturbance, you can get a permit within say a month, actually less than that in Steve's case, because he knows the perimeters and basically has a good relationship. Right. If you're going to do a major drilling program that has a bigger amount of disturbance, it can take up to a year, because then you have to do a year's bugs and bunnies, hate that term, but anyway, bugs and bunnies study starting in January and go right on through the year. And then at that time, you can get a permit to drill. Okay, so you're just going to put a pause on Silver Bow and focus on White Rock. Could you talk about the history of White Rock and why you're so excited about that property? Well, Steve brought it to me because he actually, when he was manager of the Kennecott office in Salt Lake, I was in Salt Lake, he was in Reno. Anyway, he loved the property, and we got a data package on the property from his contacts, went through it. He had drilled, I think, 9 holes for Kennecott on that property, and he said that at that time, the grades weren't high enough for Kennecott's interest, because if you had worked for Frank Jokic, our president, which I did, he had very stringent ideas of what's an economic gold property. In the meantime, what's happened is what used to be an economic gold property in Nevada, basically started off at 10 grams, has dropped and dropped and dropped. And the current mines in Nevada that are big mines are mining grades that probably average about half a gram, 0.015 ounce per ton. And that's it. And when you look at those mines, Round Mountain's a good example. They're mining stuff that is far less than half a gram. Several of the companies are mining far less than half a gram, and they're making money. That's the difference between, by the way, that's one of the things that we fight in our company is people will come in and say, look at these spectacular results we got in, say, Newfoundland. Yeah. And yes, they are. But when you first look at underground costs, they're an order of magnitude higher than the cost of an open pit mine. Secondly, when you look at the size, you can have a spectacular high-grade deposit. It might be 50 or 100,000 ounces. You have one of these open pit mines in Nevada, and the grades are not impressive, but the economics are. And the volumes can get into the plus million ounces in a hurry. So I like Nevada. It's cheaper to operate in. It's much cheaper to explore with RC drilling. And the chances of finding a home run deposit are better than they are on chasing one of these high grade veins that can be so exciting. You can have a stock burst in price and all that, and then it collapses. There's nothing behind it. We wanted to build something.
Okay. Thanks for that. And you started drilling on White Rock just 2 months ago, right?
Actually, about a month ago. We were delayed the first month because the drill rig, Nevada, and actually the whole North American continent right now is desperately short of drill rigs and drillers, both. What happened, they were scheduled to be on site on June 1st. They didn't show up until after June. And then when they did show up, we had some early holes, and we stuck the rod. That geologist is no longer with us because of what happened. Anyway, this is typical of a drilling operation, so you understand it. We stuck the rod, we fought it. We had to try to pull the rod out. We broke, that delayed us for another week. Now we are drilling again with new rules and a new geologist that Steve is supervising, and things are going great.
Okay. And how is getting lab results in Nevada right now? Is that cleared up
slow.
a bit? It's still slow.
It's fortunately for us, Paragon Lab, which is the one that we use. Steve is friends with the owner, and we're going to be getting a regular turnaround. Our first sample, we are just getting the first hole back, right? Basically, have to admit we've gotten it, but I can't divulge it until we put out the news release, which will be this week, but it's not disappointing. And that was a vertical hole to test the stratigraphy. What we have in White Rock is a vein system. If you can picture a turtle's back, a dome, then what happens in those types of structures, and I'll back up one more thing, that dome is caused by underlying thrust faulting. That it's like a crumpled rug when you're trying to pull something underneath it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that creates fractures. The fractures are, in this case, are carrying the mineralizing fluids up into the rocks. The host rocks, in this case, which are silicified limestones that have been brittle fractured afterwards, spread the mineralization out along the bedding.
Sure.
This whole vertical hole was testing that bedding, and we got, we'll see the results. We have good results for open pit grade in Nevada. I'm very happy. What we're going to be drilling in the future is looking for those feeder structures, which are going to be higher grade as well.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering, because I was going to ask you about White Rock, because there's been multiple people that owned that property before, right? Some people did drill and some people did not. But you saw potential where nothing's really come of it since how long? It's been
a lot of years, but what they did, 65 holes were drilled out there. Most of them hit what is today ore grade mineralization, and in thick enough zones to be attractive. What none of them did was understand the geology. And in fact, it's I don't know how to be nice about this. There were rock units that were called by other companies, cherts, etc. They are silicified limestones that have been shattered, and you can actually find the cores of the original limestone. We also understand the structure. Nobody could really figure out what was going on structurally, but with the doming and a secondary dome that goes off on the side at a oblique angle from it, we're starting to get a picture of the plumbing system involved, and the fact that the whole dome appears to be strongly mineralized and potentially a target area for about 2.5 kilometers by 1.5 kilometers, which is a very large area.
So how did you come to White Rock? Like, how did you get interested in this property? Because I'm just trying to understand
Oh, okay.
when people look at historic results, why do so many people overlook it, and why do you get excited about it? Because all three of your properties have some sort of historical reference.
And that was deliberate. When Steve came to me, he said, you know, the next generation of discovery in Nevada is not going to be out there grassroots very often. It's going to be a reinterpretation of a project that's been looked at before. And in fact, there used to be a rule when years ago that the average mining property out there had been looked at by 5 to 7 companies before somebody took it seriously and turned it into something. That number is now higher. So Steve was presented this property by Jerry Boffman of Ely Gold as a potential farm out. And when he saw that, he said, I remember that property because he had drilled it. And he went out and visited. He brought me out to visit. We loved what we saw. We reinterpreted it and recognized that this is a major system. It's not going to be 10 grams. It's going to be 1.5 grams, 2 grams, but on average with higher grade zones. We can hope for those higher grade feeder zones, which I'm sure are in there somewhere. But it's today, by today's economics, it's a very economic and average to maybe even better than average open pit property for Nevada.
Okay. And let's talk about Mineral Hill then, and the history behind that project. What did you see in that project that got you so excited?
What interested me, I was poo-pooing it when it was first presented to me, because I said, what, a little silver property out there in the middle of that? And Steve said, you've got to see it. And so once again, I went out and looked at it. What it is a hogsback. And if you can picture a hogsback ridge that is held up by a thrust fault that came in and lifted 2 formations together, the Benini, which is a dark shale, and limestones on the upper side. Anyway, a mineralizing hydrothermal system came into that and formed silver deposits that started being mined, and I could have the wrong year, but I think it's 1868, about there, a long time ago. The grades in that early mining were 140 ounces, like plus 4,000 grams per ton. Incredible. But that was because it was secondarily enriched and they were mining that zone. When they got to the primary ore, which ran about 25 ounces of silver per ton, they mined that until the 1939, and they quit. Well, time has passed and silver has increased in value. We went out there and looked at it and verified results from 2 other companies that even the dumps, the waste rock on that property was multi-ounce silver. You have to put this into the context that Core has a silver mine operating in Nevada called the Rochester. Yep. And they're averaging about, I think, 0.6 of an ounce of silver per ton as their economic grade and making money. What we were seeing is multi-ounce silver per ton. And this stuff, the waste rock, which is 200,000-300,000 tons. It's just an eyeball estimate because we haven't done any measurements on it. It averages between 4 and 8 ounces of silver per ton. And that was the waste rock. We took samples that are waiting for other results from the wall rock in there, which is a much larger volume than the waste rock. And the samples that we've taken average multi-ounce per ton silver. So I think it's going to be a neat little silver mine at some point down the future. And little is sort of a misnomer because it's over 1 kilometer long. It has several hundred feet of width to it. And it's dipping at a slope where from everything we can see, we can probably chase that down dip. There's daylight on this side down dip because you're going into the valley. So strip ratios are going to become really good. The other side also has a drainage. So we're going to be mining, or someone is going to be mining a cone like this with very favorable mining conditions. So I like it because silver's going up in value and probably faster than gold. And this is a significant silver deposit.
So why didn't anyone jump on this opportunity before? Is the geology confusing? Is it far away from like hydro or power, or why has no one jumped on this opportunity before?
That's a good question, because we wonder that too, other than the fact that most companies in Nevada ignore silver like the plague and they focus on gold. And for some reason, this was ignored. It's in good infrastructure. It's in the middle of the state. It's in the right geology all the way across. And there it was. It's all patented ground, and that may have something. You can't go in and stake it. You have to make a deal with the patented owners. But another friend of ours who is a geologist who makes a living by acquiring these things, putting them together, and farming them out, could take a 1 or 2% royalty at the end of that, put it together. And when we saw the information on it, we loved it.
Okay. And you haven't done any drilling there yet. When do you plan on? When do you see yourself drilling Mineral Hill?
Oh, okay, sorry. Anyway, our current plan is to finish the drilling that we're doing on the first round at White Rock. And that could be as many as 40 holes because we permitted 22 drill stations, and you can drill more than one hole per station. Then we're going to an RC. That's a fast, cheap thing to do. We're getting excellent speed and recovery on the drill program there. Anyway, we're going to then bring the rig over to Mineral Hill to do some test holes. We have to do some road work to get it in there. Patented ground, no permitting. And then when we're doing that, we can permit the next round of drilling at White Rock. So we're going to keep this drill rig as much as we can, for the simple reason that the drilling companies in Nevada now say, if you want a drill rig, you're out into at least mid next year. It's that tight a market.
Wow. Holy man. Quite some time. Well, you're obviously bullish and you sound optimistic about your properties, and you kind of have to be optimistic in this space. But how are you going to finance future drilling? Are you looking at solely equity financing?
We're open. Right now, we have enough money to run the program at White Rock. We've been offered a lot of money, but at our current share price, we really don't want to dilute the company any more than we have to. So I credit Rob for being really tight on that. And what we're planning on doing is getting our good results, which we will get, I believe we will get on these properties, get the share price up to where we can finance at a less diluting level. But financing right now is turning from difficult to easy for us, which is really a nice switch.
For sure. Yeah, I'm just trying to look at it as me as a speculator. Why should I invest in Provenance Gold if I see dilution down the line? So like how much insider ownership is there? How much of an investment do you have in Provenance?
About 20% of the shares are in corporate hands here. I mean, in the owner's hands. We have 40 million share float, 60 million outstanding, and 18 million warrants at 15 cents. So it's a tight company. We're going to keep it as tight as we can. But let me ask you this question. We have two projects, both of which I believe and Steve believes are going to become mines. And how many juniors do you know that have two projects that are potential future mines in Nevada as a startup company?
What, $6 million market cap right now or something like that?
I know, it's ridiculous.
So
but we've been focused on the technical end, not on the marketing end. And that's probably a failing of technical people. So we have switched gears now. We are going to continue the technical end because we have our programs in place. Now we need the marketing, and that's what we're working on.
Perfect. That's what I was going to ask you, is because there must be a point in time where you're like, okay, we feel confident enough about the story that we can start marketing it. So 2021, 2022 is going to be years of marketing and getting the story out.
I think we're going to hit the marketing hard this fall. you know, as you know, the summer season in the mining industry is difficult because people aren't that, well, basically they're vacationing, a lot of them. And so we are planning on getting our drill results in these 2 rounds that we're planning on at White Rock, the round at Mineral Hill, getting the results. That timing will work perfectly for starting to get the company recognized in the fall, September, October. So I'm pushing hard to see if we can't get on everybody's radar by mid-fall.
Okay, sounds good. Excuse me. I'll give you some background knowledge, and I like reminding my listeners when I bring on exploration companies is that I personally have a portfolio of around 85% royalty companies, and I do allocate some to some more speculative plays. But I want to get your advice. Am I asking the right questions? What type of answer should I be looking for my guests when you're talking to these early stage exploration companies?
Well, let me do something a little indirect on that answer.
Okay.
And that's that I've looked at these junior companies, and overall, when you look, and by the way, I hate to say this, but I'm 76 years old. I'm a young 76, but I'm old. I've been in this business 50 years. Steve is only a couple of years younger. And the vast majority of junior companies we've seen are in it for the stock play. They're not in it to build something and create real value. I've looked at projects, and he's looked at projects several times where new companies will come in and pick up the same property that we already know is a dog and tout it and push it. So it's a game where there aren't that many serious companies that are really in it to do something. I'm at the I won't say I'm at the end of my career, but I'm pretty darn close to it. I want to have a success that I can feel proud of and create value. And that's what we're both trying to do.
Okay. I wonder how you can, some of them are obvious, you can tell it's a stock play, and some of them you get a real sense that they're genuine people that want it to become into production. But then the rose-colored glasses and the geologists that look at it without the economics in mind. So it's a tricky space, to say the least.
That's one of the other things that geology, or I should say the mining engineer that taught me early, you know, he really emphasized to me all of the economics of the mining industry that are important. So I have a list of fatal flaws, and you look at a project and you can pretty much tell after a few checks of fatal flaws that this has the potential to become a mine if we find what we're looking for. An awful lot of companies get rosy-eyed about good assays or a great project, but there's no way in hell that they're ever going to turn it into a mine. And they should see that. They don't.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I agree. This has been great. I really appreciate you talking and taking the time to chat with me, but I think it's time for the vault. Before we get into the vault, it will be available on the website and on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, but not YouTube. If you guys like it, though, make sure to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. But you could find the vault on my website, thewealthholderspodcast.ca. I'll link it in the description below. But let's get into the vault. Thank you, Rauno. I appreciate it. This was a great conversation, but I like letting my guests close off. So here's your opportunity. Say whatever you'd like.
Okay. Well, in that case, what I will say is that I truly believe that our company is going to be a successful company for investors to invest in, because we are motivated. We know the ropes on not getting diluted or destroying value. We want to build value, and I want to build it in a shorter term frame. A lot of guests that you have probably say, we're going to take this junior and build it into a major mining company. That's unrealistic. What you're going to do is create value in projects and be taken out or taken over at a very good profit for the investors. And for me, in my short time frame, that's the ideal situation.
Yeah, I agree. Nothing wrong with getting out with a profit.
Exactly. And I want to do it for us, and I want to do it for the investors.
Perfect. Thanks, Rauno. I appreciate your
Thank
time.
you. Thank you.